God does know man's thought, and that the end of man is the beginning of God. Everything is under God's sovereignty and control. So no matter what we encounter, only when we seek, wait, obey, and rely on God will we have a way forward. God knows all your thoughts, every single thought that's ever popped in your head. Just think about that for a minute. Yeah, that probably scares you, or it should. He knows every thought that's popped in our head. And let me just say, when people say this, oh, the Lord knows my heart as an excuse to sin, yeah, the Lord does know your heart. That ought to scare you too. God knows all. There's no hiding anything from him. See, you can put on a fake smile at church and everything else and go home and behind closed doors and, you can be the biggest hypocrite and everything else. There's churches like that, by the way, with that people are in them, they put on a fake smile, look all nice and everything at church and around everybody else behind closed doors. They're the biggest hypocrites ever, because more often than not they sit and judge people for everything. Legalism, spirit of religion, hypocrisy, that all is what that is. And the end of man is the beginning of God. The end of us, dying to ourselves, the end of us, when we say, okay, God, I can't do it anymore, when we put it in his hands, knowing he can solve anything, knowing that he will get us through, you know what? God will get us through. The end of us is the beginning of God. That's when God steps in, takes over, and gets us through it all. Everything is under God's sovereignty and control. God is a sovereign God, and he's in control. Everything is under his sovereignty and control. You can sit there and you can try to control everything and be a control freak and think you're going to get somewhere with that. And listen, I'm not saying God will never work through people. He'll never work through you. I'm not saying that at all. But the problem is, we all have this tendency where we start getting arrogant, like, oh, I can control everything. Oh, can you? Eventually, sooner or later, you end up falling. And you know what? I know I do. Need God to get me back up. So my question is, people, when we all go through that, who are you going to rely to get you back up when you fall? Or to catch you if you're falling off that cliff, to grab your hand? Who are you going to rely on? You're going to rely on God to do it, right? That would be the way to go, because otherwise you will not get through. But with God, all things are possible. Anything's possible with him. Any storm you're facing, you'll get through. He'll be a shelter for you in any storm. Any trials you're facing, they're like a refining fire. We've talked about this so many times. They're like a refining fire for us. God's testing us. He's strengthening us. May not be the most enjoyable thing to endure right now, but you will get through if you have God at your side. No matter what we encounter, only when we seek, wait, obey, and rely on God will we have a way forward. Only when we seek God with all of our hearts, we wait on God, and obey, have obedience to God, and fully rely on God. When we do all those things, we'll have a way forward. If we don't do those things, we won't have a way forward. That is basically to say, oh, well, I can do it myself, I can do it all. That's arrogance. By the way, I can do it all. I don't need God's help. Yeah, it may be going good for you for a bit, but sooner or later you're going to run into a road bump that's going to throw you off big time. So seek the Lord with all your heart and just wait on him. I'm waiting on the Lord to provide me my special someone. Waiting's not always easy. We tend to lose patience. But we must wait on the Lord because God's timing is perfect. And be obedient to the Lord. Disobedience doesn't get anybody anywhere, especially disobedience to God. That right there, and I'm not saying any of us are perfect, but disobedience is walking a path of destruction. Again, none of us are perfect. We all have our moments of disobedience. I'm not saying that. But when we get away from that and become obedient to God again, and rely on God, fully rely on God, keep your faith in Him, pray daily, just put your faith in Him and know that He's going to get you through whatever. You'll have that way forward when you do all of those things. Y'all have a great and blessed night. I love yous.